"You're just a burden to this family," my brother Ryan sneered as he stood in the doorway of what used to be my bedroom. "Nobody wants you here anyway," his wife, Jessica, added with a smirk. I didn't respond. Because I had already made up my mind. The next morning, I packed my bags. They thought they had won. They had no idea what was coming. Living with my parents again at 29 wasn't ideal. But after Mom's stroke 9 months ago, it made sense. Dad had to keep working, his job provided their health insurance, and someone needed to stay with Mom during the day. Since I worked remotely, I stepped up. It wasn't easy. Some days, Mom struggled to form simple sentences. Some days, she couldn't lift a spoon on her own. But I was there for her. They visited maybe once a month, if that. So when I heard whispers coming from the kitchen at 1:45 a.m., I knew something was wrong. I had gone downstairs for water when I caught the sound of Ryan's voice. "The market's great right now," Jessica was saying. "We just need to make them see it's the best choice for everyone." "The problem is Ellie," Ryan muttered. "She's always been Mom's favorite. You know how they are." I stood there, gripping my glass, heart pounding. They were scheming. I should have walked in. Called them out. But instead, I listened. And what I heard changed everything. The next morning, they were all smiles at breakfast. Dad was making waffles, his way of keeping things normal since Mom's stroke, when Ryan cleared his throat. "So, we have some news," he said, reaching for Jessica's hand. "We're selling our house." Dad nearly dropped the spatula. "Selling? But you love that house." Jessica nodded. "We've been thinking about family lately. About being closer, especially with Mom's condition." I watched Mom carefully. Her speech was slow, but her mind was still sharp. Something flickered in her expression, confusion, maybe concern. "We thought," Ryan continued, his voice too sweet, "we could move in here. Just temporarily, of course. To help out." And that's when I saw it. Jessica's glance. Just for a second. Her eyes darted to me. "Ellie's room would be perfect for us," Ryan added. "She works from home. She can live anywhere, right?" The kitchen went silent. Only the faint sizzle of burning waffles filled the air. Dad turned off the stove, his movements measured. "Ellie has been here, taking care of your mother. Every day. And we're so grateful," he said slowly. Jessica didn't miss a beat. "But let's be practical. 2 extra adults would be a bigger help than 1. And we could contribute to household expenses." I sat there, fork mid-air, watching their performance unfold. In the 9 months I had been here, Ryan had visited exactly 6 times. 3 of those visits lasted less than an hour. Things escalated quickly. For the next week, Ryan and Jessica practically moved in. They showed up constantly. Always with an excuse. Always hovering in different parts of the house. I caught Jessica snooping in Mom's study, twice. Both times, she claimed she was just looking for a pen. The second time, she was standing by Mom's filing cabinet. The passive-aggressive comments started subtly. Then they got bolder. "Must be nice living here rent-free. Don't you think it's time you got your own place?" Always when Mom and Dad weren't around. Last night? That was my breaking point. I was helping Mom with her evening physical therapy exercises when Ryan and Jessica barged in. "We need to talk," Ryan announced. "Dad and Mom are asleep." I helped Mom settle into her chair, then turned to face them. Jessica moved first, blocking the doorway. Ryan stood in front of me, arms crossed. "You need to stop fighting this," he said. "You're just a burden to this family." I blinked. "Excuse me?" Jessica's voice dripped with contempt. "Look at you. Almost 30. Living with Mommy and Daddy. Nobody wants you here." I looked at them. Really looked. Ryan's designer polo couldn't hide the stress lines on his face. Jessica's usually flawless appearance was slipping, her silk blouse wrinkled, her eyes slightly bloodshot. They were desperate. "If you really cared about this family," Ryan continued, "you'd step aside. Let people who actually know how to handle things take over." I glanced at Mom's chair. She had dozed off. And I was grateful. She didn't have to hear her own children speaking like this. I didn't argue. Didn't defend myself. Because something in their desperation set off alarm bells. Instead, I went upstairs. Packed a bag. Made a hotel reservation. But before I left, I did two things. First, I ordered security cameras, small, discreet, the kind that connect to a phone app. Dad agreed when I told him they were for Mom's safety. The look of relief in his eyes told me he'd noticed something, too. Second, I called the bank. Asked them to flag Mom's accounts for suspicious activity. Because finding Jessica snooping through Mom's documents? Yeah. That wasn't sitting right with me. I moved out this morning. Ryan and Jessica looked triumphant. But something about their victory felt off. Jessica immediately started measuring the windows in my old room. Ryan was already rearranging Mom's study. I'm writing this from my hotel room. Watching the camera feed on my laptop. They think I've given up. That I've walked away. They don't know I've just moved my pieces into position. Dad texted me an hour ago. Jessica asked about your mother's pension paperwork. Said she wanted to help organize things. I'm meeting with a lawyer tomorrow morning. Because sometimes, the best way to protect your family is to let others think they've won. It's been 24 hours since I left the house. And I wish I could say I was just being paranoid. But the cameras? They caught everything. I spent most of last night reviewing the footage from my hotel room. At around 11:30 p.m., after my parents went to bed, Ryan and Jessica had what they thought was a private conversation in my old room. They were wrong. The audio wasn't perfect, but I heard enough. We don't have a choice anymore, Jessica was saying, pacing back and forth. The deadline's in 2 weeks. Ryan sat on my old bed, rubbing his face. I know. But forging Mom's signature, Jessica? If we get caught. If we don't do this, we lose everything. Jessica snapped. The house isn't just being sold, Ryan. We're being evicted. Do you want people to find out? I paused the video. My pulse pounded in my ears. They weren't selling their house at all. They were losing it. The conversation got worse. Jessica started ranting about a failed investment. About angry clients. Numbers that made my stomach turn. Your parents' house has so much equity, she said. If we can just get the refinancing approved. Ryan hesitated. But Ellie's going to notice, he muttered. She's always checking their accounts. Jessica rolled her eyes. That's why we needed her gone. Look, I've got the paperwork ready. We just need your mom's signature. Once we have that, we can access enough to cover what we need, and no one will know. I watched my brother, the same brother who used to sneak me candy as a kid, nod slowly. What about the retirement accounts? That's when I stopped the video. And called the bank. Not the local branch. I went straight to corporate fraud. The woman on the other end was incredibly helpful once I explained the situation. Turns out, someone had already attempted to submit a mortgage application in Mom's name. It was flagged because the signature didn't match. I spent the rest of the night documenting everything. This morning, I met with an elder law attorney. The meeting was eye-opening. Apparently, what Jessica and Ryan were trying to pull wasn't just morally wrong. It was a federal crime. The attorney helped me file for an emergency guardianship hearing and contacted the relevant authorities. But the real bombshell came when I started digging into Jessica's background. Public records are fascinating. Turns out, Jessica already had multiple complaints filed against her for financial misconduct. Her company? Under investigation for shady dealings. And even better? She had been pressuring people to remove negative online reviews. I needed to tell my parents. But I needed to be smart about it. Instead of confronting Ryan and Jessica, I went back to the house while they were out. They had told Dad they were house hunting. That was a lie. I knew that now. Dad was in the kitchen when I arrived, helping Mom adjust her adaptive utensils. The normalcy of the moment hit me hard. They had no idea what their own son and daughter-in-law were planning. Ellie? Dad looked up. I thought you were staying at the hotel for a while. I sat at the kitchen table. Pulled out my laptop. And hit play. Ryan's voice filled the room. Then Jessica's. The fraud. The The manipulation. The entire plan. Dad's face went pale. Mom's hand started shaking. Not from her condition. From rage. There's more, I said quietly. Dad, remember those papers Ryan's been asking you to sign? The ones about helping with the bills? Dad's eyes widened. He rushed to grab his briefcase and pulled out a stack of documents. The attorney had warned me about this. Power of attorney forms. Transfer of property documents. Loan applications. All of them. Waiting. For a signature. I almost signed them yesterday, Dad whispered. Ryan said it was to help with Mom's medical expenses. Mom took a deep breath. Then she spoke. Stop them. I pulled out the legal documents the attorney prepared, forms to protect their assets, revoke any power of attorney, and alert the bank to the attempted fraud. They signed immediately. Now? Ryan and Jessica had no idea. They thought they were in control. They thought I had given up. But the second they stepped back into that house, their entire world was about to come crashing down. As I write this, I'm still at the house. Ryan and Jessica are due back any minute. They don't know that their mortgage application was rejected. They don't know that the cameras caught everything. They don't know that I spent the day helping Mom and Dad secure every cent they own. The doorbell just rang. Dad went to answer it. It should be the attorney I hired. Right on schedule. We're having a family meeting in exactly 1 hour. When Ryan and Jessica return, everything is going to come out. I can hear a car pulling into the driveway. I've repositioned the living room camera to get a better angle. Our parents are ready. The attorney is here. And Ryan and Jessica? They have no clue what's about to hit them. Ryan and Jessica walked into the house laughing. They were carrying shopping bags, acting like they didn't have a care in the world. The laughter died the moment they stepped into the living room. Mom and Dad sat on the couch. I sat in Mom's armchair. The attorney I hired was sitting at the dining room table, a stack of papers in front of him. Ryan's smile faltered. His eyes flicked to the documents. Jessica was the first to speak. What's going on? Mom's expression was stone cold. Sit. Ryan hesitated. Jessica tried to laugh it off. Is everything okay? We weren't expecting a family meeting. Sit. This time, Dad's voice carried a warning. They sat. I watched as Ryan's hands shook while he set his shopping bags down. Jessica adjusted her collar, her jaw tightening. She knew. Something was wrong. Dad took a deep breath. We know about the mortgage application, Ryan. Ryan's face paled. The one with your mother's forged signature. Jessica froze. Ryan opened his mouth, but before he could say anything, Jessica cut him off. That's ridiculous. There must be some mistake. I didn't say a word. I just reached over, opened my laptop, and hit play. Ryan's voice filled the room. Then Jessica's. The entire plan. The fraud. The conspiracy. Everything. They sat there, listening to their own voices incriminate themselves. Jessica's face went white. Ryan's hands curled into fists. Then. Silence. Jessica suddenly jumped up, pointing directly at me. You had no right. This is invasion of privacy. We could sue you. Sit down. The attorney spoke for the first time, his voice like a blade. Jessica flinched. Before we discuss the multiple federal crimes you've attempted to commit, let's go over your current legal situation. He pulled out more documents. First, the pending investigation against Jessica for financial misconduct. Her client's complaints. Evidence of attempted identity theft. Then, the biggest bombshell yet. Jessica had already opened 3 credit cards in Mom's name. She had been using them for months. Ryan's face crumpled. Jessica, you said we were just going to borrow against the house. You never said. Jessica's voice was shaky now. What was I supposed to do? After the investment went south, everyone wanted their money back. Ryan snapped. Your shopping sprees weren't helping either. Jessica's eyes flashed with anger. Oh, And what about the gambling charges on our credit card, Ryan? Who do you think was paying for that? Everything exploded. Yelling. Accusations. Secrets spilling faster than they could stop them. Ryan and Jessica weren't just in debt. They were drowning. The house they claimed to be selling? It was already in foreclosure. Jessica's business? Under investigation for fraud. Ryan had been hiding everything from her. She had been hiding everything from him. And now? They were turning on each other. Mom listened quietly through it all, her expression growing harder with each revelation. Then, finally, she spoke. You tried to steal from us. Ryan choked on a sob. Mom, no. We were desperate. We were going to pay it back. Mom didn't even blink. With what money? Ryan had no answer. The attorney cleared his throat. Here's what's going to happen. He slid over a new set of papers. First, your parents have signed documents revoking any power of attorney and placing fraud alerts on all their accounts. Jessica gritted her teeth. You can't just. The attorney didn't even let her finish. Second, the credit card companies have been notified of the identity theft. Third. He looked Jessica dead in the eyes. The authorities have been notified of your attempts to defraud your in-laws. Jessica's face twisted in rage. She bolted upright, knocking over a lamp. You can't prove anything. Ryan's head snapped toward her. Jessica, what did you do? Before she could answer, 2 police cars pulled up outside. Jessica turned wild-eyed to Ryan. Tell them. Tell them we were just trying to help. But Ryan? He wasn't looking at her anymore. He was staring at the floor. His shoulders were shaking. The officers came in. Jessica was handcuffed right in the living room. She started screaming, ranting about how she was being betrayed. Then she turned back to Ryan. You spineless idiot. This is your fault. Ryan didn't say a word. He just stared at his hands. The door slammed shut as the police took Jessica away. After the police left, Dad went into the kitchen and started stress baking. Mom wheeled herself into her study. She needed time to think. That night, I found Ryan sitting in my old room, holding an old photo of us as kids. I didn't know about the credit cards, he whispered. I knew we were in trouble, but I didn't know how bad. Jessica kept saying she could fix everything if we just had access to Mom's equity. I wanted to believe her. Why didn't you just come to us? Ryan looked up, eyes filled with shame. Because admitting everything was falling apart meant admitting I failed. That my perfect life was a lie. I didn't say anything. There was nothing left to say. The final pieces. The police called this morning. They found evidence on Jessica's laptop, proof she had been stealing from clients for years. She wasn't just stealing from our family. Her entire business was built on fraud. Ryan filed for divorce yesterday. I moved back home today. My room still smells like Ryan's cologne. But the shopping bags are gone. Dad baked enough cookies to feed an army. Mom's speech therapy is finally improving. Turns out, stress was making it worse. They're taking their first vacation in years next month. Paid for with legitimate funds. And Ryan? Well, that's a longer road ahead. Thank you for watching the video. Like it if you watched the video to the end and don't forget to subscribe. Have a nice day.